Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. It is Monday, April 7th, and we have a huge week of shows for you here on the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from Rumble, live from Twitter, Spreely TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, every podcast platform you can ever imagine. And of course, our friends over at Patriot TV and X America News, broadcasting the Shannon Joy Show every day after it ends on their platforms. Annie Cyrus is producing the show today after a lovely weekend. I hope you are all rested and relaxed and ready to go. It is going to be a roller coaster of a week, particularly in the markets, which we will be watching all week long. Some people calling today Black Monday, Bloody Monday, Orange Monday, Mango Monday. It's all about chaos in the markets. And I will tell you, a functioning, healthy, free market economy hates chaos. And that is the biggest problem with the agenda now being pursued and doubled down on by the Trump administration. It's why the closing bell on Friday, it was an absolute bloodbath, and people are, waiting with bated breath to see what happens today. It's already ugly. We're not going to go in too much detail to the economy today, but I do have a couple pieces here that we are going to go over. You guys see the headline of today's show. We're going to talk about the good news. I have been telling you for 10 years that the answers aren't in Washington, D.C., that the two-party political system is completely corrupted, and that Democrats and Republicans work for the same team. It's all about corruption. And the reason we continue to be mired in the dystopia that is the United States of America in 2025, barreling towards a technocracy and even further control systems and control grids is because we continue to be mired in that false political paradigm. So terrified of the other party that we continue to elect scoundrels into positions of power in Washington, D.C., and they continue to fleece us and plunder this country. And that's what this latest round of tariffs, the market manipulations, and the atom bomb that this administration is dropping on our own economy, that's what it's going to achieve: chaos and plunder. And so we have huge guests coming up this week in the Shannon Joy Show to talk about all of that. The answers are not in Washington, D.C. The answers are not in a political party or a political agenda or any political idol. The answers come from we the people, right? From the bottom up at the local level. It's bottom up, baby. And this is why I love a headline like this today to kick off the week here on the Shannon Joy Show, along with a very special visit from a very special guest in the second hour of the Shannon Joy Show. Yes, Leslie Manookian will be with us live at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on the Shannon Joy Show today to talk about the massive, sweeping medical freedom bill that was passed and signed by the governor in the great state of Idaho. If Republicans in Washington, D.C. won't do it, then we can do it ourselves. As I mentioned, bottom up, baby, let's go. This is a quote from Leslie Manookian. We have literally passed landmark, groundbreaking legislation in the state of Idaho, protecting the rights of every Idahoan to direct their own medical care, banning medical mandates, and forced medical procedures. Do you guys want a reckoning for COVID atrocities that happened in 2020 and 2021 and beyond? Do we want freedom opportunity and prosperity back here in the United States of America, then forget about Washington, D.C. and go local, go state level. No one ever believes me. But here we have one of the best pieces of legislation that I have read. It is about 3 pages printed out. The good stuff is always short and sweet and to the point. And it's a brilliant bill. This needs to be copied and pasted in every red state across America and in blue states as well if we want to seize back our bodily autonomy, our freedom, our Constitution, sanity, and our Bill of Rights. In an almost miraculous turn of events, the Idaho Medical Freedom Act has been passed. Despite an early veto from the governor last week and about 1,000 hurdles, they got it done. This victory is real thanks to the tireless, decades-long work of freedom advocate Leslie Manookian and her team on the ground in the state of Idaho, along with Health Freedom Defense and organizations that we've featured here on the Shannon Joy Show. We've also had Leslie on the show as well. This is the way, guys. This is what we need to do. And it comes on the utter betrayal from Bobby Kennedy Jr. yesterday with a tweet that broke the medical freedom community and sparked a massive backlash, even from people like Del Bigtree of Highwire, who came out publicly yesterday hammering the pushing of the MMR vaccine by HHS Secretary Bobby Kennedy Jr. Wait till you see the pushback and the backlash from the medical freedom community from all ends of the United States of America. We have that tweet and we have all of their responses, which we'll go into today. It just proves my point. Once we send our people into the decrepit cesspool that is Washington, D.C., they become completely impotent and even utterly betray us. And it happens over and over and over. This is Groundhog Day political hell. It is Lucy and Charlie Brown and the football over and over and over. When are we going to wake up? When are we going to finally get this, get out of DC, stop obsessing over everything that happens in DC, and get to work in our own communities from the bottom up, local and state level? This is the way. Localism is the antidote to globalism, and it works. This is a template for other states and local governments, and we must always remember, if the scoundrels in Washington, D.C. won't do it, then we need to do it ourselves. And this today is proof that it can be done. And Leslie Manookian is going to take a victory lap here in the Shannon Joy Show in just under an hour and let us know exactly how this went down and exactly how to do it. It was amazing to watch her and some of her associates on Rumble literally shedding tears of joy, absolutely astounded that they were able to pull this off and in a great way. Again, as I mentioned, I read the bill. It's stellar, and we're going to go through it in just a moment. So great news today on the Shannon Joy Show, even amidst all the terrible news, the absolute chaos in the markets. I have a great piece here from Croaky Cayman Substack. We also have an article from Jeffrey Sachs that was forwarded to me by Catherine Austin Fitz, who will be in the Joy Virtual Studio, not this week, but next week, to talk about all things economic. And as I mentioned, we are going to be covering the markets. We're going to be watching them throughout this week and next week, giving you the truth and not the spin, no propaganda from this outlet on the disaster that is Trump's tariff policy.
Hey everyone, it's Naomi Wolf, and I have a message. President Trump is in the process of what he calls draining the swamp. But many in the MAGA movement and the MAHA movement are asking if he'll expose the entire pandemic. There's enough public evidence for people to be concerned who injected themselves in what has turned out to be a massive experiment. If you were compelled to get the shot for work, travel, maybe you just trusted the system, check out this natural solution formulated by hero doctor Peter McCullough in collaboration with the Wellness Company. They just leveled up their original detox formula, and it cost $30 less. We are introducing the 3-in-1 Ultimate Spike Detox. It's now conveniently consolidated into a single capsule with 4 times more nattokinase, 500 milligrams of bromelain, and 500 milligrams of turmeric root extract. Nattokinase, an enzyme researched for its anti-clotting effects, may work to break down spike proteins. Combined with bromelain and curcumin, it provides a potent blend for detoxification and cellular support. Crafted with 100% natural ingredients, Ultimate Spike Detox is backed by research. It offers effective support for your cell's natural repair and recovery. Experience the only formula approved and used by Dr. Peter McCullough, a top freedom-fighting doctor who risked it all to bring you the truth. Head over to dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DAILYClout to get 10% off plus free shipping. Again, that's dailyclouthealth.com and use the code DAILYClout to get 10% off and get back to that pre-COVID feeling.
CJP Rumble with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. Loving the shirt. You guys are amazing. Let's go to the live chat. Then we'll thank our sponsors, and then I'll give you the lineup for this week. Big guests in the Joy Virtual Studio this week. You guys are going to love them. Strident Conservative is with us on the live chat today. Another Groundhog Day moment. The feds are expected to slash interest rates to offset Trump's tariff disaster, recession, or depression 2.0. As it's been pointed out by economists over at Brownstone Institute and even Jeffrey Tucker himself, we've been in a recession, folks, since 2020. That was the last year of the administration of Donald J. Trump, and he thrust this nation into a recession with the lockdowns of 2020 and the subsequent government spending and printing of money for the entirety of 2020. So he started it, Biden continued it, and now Trump is once again going to push the pedal to the metal, absolutely destroying this economy so that his buddies can come in and plunder. That is the position of many economists and Catherine Austin Fitts, and she's going to defend her position next week. Yeah, he did it in his first term, 100% strident conservative. Bill Ben's with us. Hello, all. Great news. And Bill thinks that RFK Jr. is a scumbag. Well, there are a lot of people right now in the medical freedom community who are hammering. This is the most robust pushback to Bobby Kennedy Jr., who has enjoyed a very, very long rope up until now in terms of his rhetoric and what he has done in addition to what he has not done. And yesterday was the first day where I saw a major backlash from some of the biggest voices in the medical freedom community. Buskman is with us today on the live chat. Let's go to say hello to all of you. We have CJP Rumble joining us, of course, on the live chat. And no, it's flowers, not cherries on the blouse today, but thank you for the compliment. It's very springy here in Rochester, New York. And so I figured I'd toss out the floral today, right? Yep. Idaho is leading America 100%. Guitar Lily is with us on the live chat. Did you hear Del Bigtree's rant about RFK and those of us who think the same about him? Guitar Lily, I saw it. I have it. I'm going to read it to you guys. It is astounding, 100%. Who else do we have on the live chat? Mama C, 1996. Good morning, peeps. I'm back from vacay. Welcome back, Mama C. Good to see you. Mrs. Lovely is with us here as well. We have Zen Woman on the live chat. Mary New is with us with a robust happy Monday. Great to see you too, Mary New. Who else do we have here? Any new faces? If you are new to the SJ live chat, I want to hear from you. Give us a wave, a thumbs up, or a little note, and I'll certainly welcome you to the most brilliant, friendly, helpful live chat in all of Rumble. General Patton is with us. Rothen Walker is with us on the live chat as well. Great to see so many friendly faces. H Baird 36. Hello all. Do not forget to smash that like button right here on Rumble. Helps us with the algorithm. And we're always appreciative of any of the help that we get from the staff over at Rumble, where we broadcast this show. Annie Cyrus, thank you so much for being with us today on the Shannon Joy Show as well. She has joined the live chat and is producing the show. So, MAP 2022. The bigger question, when are we going to stop asking the psychopaths to stop killing us and realize they have no right to do so to begin with? I don't necessarily disagree. And so let's get in. So today, here's our agenda. We're going to be bringing in Leslie Manookian in the Joy Virtual Studio at 1 p.m. Eastern Time to go over the details of this landmark, groundbreaking bill that has passed, a medical freedom bill in the state of Idaho. This needs to be duplicated, replicated, sent out to your legislatures in your home states, whether it's a red state or a blue state. This is an amazing medical freedom bill, and it is going to stop dead in its tracks any effort to shut us down again. And this was the big pushback. This was the reason that I think there was so much pushback against Bobby Kennedy Jr. in his tweet, because the tweet, which I have, and I'm going to read it to you in just a moment, basically adopted all of the tactics and the techniques and the language of Deborah Birx, Anthony Fauci, and the lockdowners in chief in 2020 and 2021. It is everything that we raged against for 2 full years, now coming full circle and being regurgitated back to us by HH Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. in relation to the measles outbreak in Texas. Yes, they're even pushing the fear porn about the weaponized virus. I have a great piece here from Sasha Latapova that we're going to go over in this context as well. How to Fake Pandemics in her most recent Substack, the Maestro edition, Ralph Barrick. Basically, she makes the case, and this is probably a 10-page Substack printed out, but basically gain of function viruses and the whole idea about weaponized viruses and gain of function being so dangerous is totally false. It's completely fake. It's dead on arrival. And Sasha Latapova just nails it in this piece, which, by the way, I think I linked to this piece in the last Friday show. So Annie, if we can bring this up, if you have a moment to find this and put this in the description in the show notes so that people can access this Substack, it's really, really good. And basically all of the fear porn, everything that Rand has been focusing like a laser. Notice that Rand Paul never talked about forced masking or the dangers of the COVID shots. He never talked really about the emergency use authorization or the emergency orders that shut everything down. The fact that this was a military operation, not a health operation. All of the peripheral, the things that really matter about what happened to us in 2020 and 2021. Okay, the COVID kill shot, but also the COVID kill protocols in the hospitals. You never, ever, ever heard Rand Paul get up on the floor of the Senate and speak about any of that. It was all super narrow and all focused on gain of function research, right? Which contributes to the fear porn. It frightens people into accepting protocols and countermeasures if they are constantly fearful of some new weaponized virus that's going to be dropped on all of us to kill us. Well, Sasha just takes us apart. She debunks everything regarding gain of function using Ralph Barrick's own paper, which she goes through with a fine-tooth comb. It's a brilliant piece, and it's another step in defeating this weaponized fear porn that Bobby Kennedy Jr. is deploying himself in this ridiculous tweet that he put out yesterday that has angered so many in the medical freedom community. So we're going to go over all of those pieces and do a little bit on the economy before we bring Leslie Manookian, into the Joy Virtual Studio. So before we go to break, first, let's thank our sponsors here on the Shannon Joy Show. Of course, Colonial Metals Group. This is the metals company that I trust. There is really one area that is doing well in all of the chaos of the past week and the chaos madness, Bitcoin madness, all of it. And that's physical gold and silver, right? Gold and silver stocks took a little bit of a hit last week, minor hit, as every stock in the market did because of the announcement, not of the tariffs, but actually it was the retaliatory announcement from China that really sent the stock market into a free fall, and everything absolutely plummeted, including gold and silver stocks, so paper gold and silver. But very interesting analysis from our friend Jesse Colombo over at the Bubble, which I featured today in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show, showing that although the metals stocks went along with all the other stocks, physical gold and silver are still doing very well and even rallied recently. So this is why we must all have a metals strategy. It is never too late. I don't look at this as purchasing or buying physical gold and silver. I look at it as trading one useless asset for another very useful asset. And so I am constantly trading my dollars for physical gold and silver. It's something I do on a regular basis. I only trust the folks over at Colonial Metals Group. They can also help you out because I think ultimately gold and silver stocks, paper gold and silver, will also go up, as we move through this process. So I think that it's a smart place to be if it's something that you decide for yourself. But the folks over at Colonial Metals Group can help you guys decide where you want to go with this. They do not do a hard sell. They don't do a pressure sell. They love this audience, the Shannon Joy Show audience. I've gotten so much feedback from all of you about the amazing staff over at Colonial. They pick up the phone. It's a human person, and they walk you through all aspects of gold and silver as a hedge against the chaos, whether it's physical gold and silver for your safe or investing or in, switching over to a gold or silver backed Roth IRA or 401k. They can do it all, and they love the Joy audience. There are always specials for the Shannon Joy audience as well. So please go to colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. That is colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. Of course, we're thankful for our friends over at the Satellite Phone Store, All Family Pharmacy, the Native Path family of products, Chef's Foundry, and of course, PCM and Associates. Big week this week of shows, by the way. Tomorrow, we are going to have Conceptual James Lindsay, who is a brilliant analyst and looks at the growth of the woke right. It is not about conservatism or constitutionalism. There is a new faction that has infiltrated the Republican right and the conservative movement, and it is what he calls woke right. It is a complete bastardization of what you thought conservatism was. And once again, we're going to welcome James Lindsay into the Joy Virtual Studio tomorrow live. On Wednesday, are you guys ready for this? Judith Very Baker is going to be with us live on Wednesday here in the studio talking about the JFK files, the release of the JFK files, and what she calls an absolute tragedy. This investigation, the hearings on JFK are a complete joke, and she has a lot to say about that. In addition to her research on cancer and curing cancer, she is an unbelievable resource. Again, one of the last living witnesses of what went down during the assassination of JFK. She was the mistress in New Orleans in 1963 of Lee Harvey Oswald. And Judith says that it's outrageous that they have experts testifying about the JFK files and what happened in terms of the JFK assassination in 1963, when they have live witnesses, multiple live witnesses, including Judith Berry Baker herself. So she's going to have a lot to say about that here live in the Joy Virtual Studio for a full show on Wednesday. Cannot wait for all of that. And then David Knight is going to be with us this week, either Thursday or Friday. Haven't nailed him down yet, but he has a lot to say about current events and what is happening in all areas of the culture and the economy. David Knight, absolutely brilliant. Cannot wait to learn from his perspective later this week. Next week, of course, I mentioned Catherine Austin Fitts will be in the Joy Virtual Studio on Tuesday. So we have a lot of great guests lined up for all of you coming up this week on the Shannon Joy Show. So do not miss an episode. One of the best ways to not miss an episode is to follow me, obviously, on all the socials, on Twitter and Facebook, but also to sign up for the Shannon Joy Show e-blast. I send it out every single morning. You will never miss an episode. Also, follow the Shannon Joy Show right here on Rumble as well. So if you go to theshannonjoy.com, theshannonjoy.com, you can sign up for the daily e-newsletter so that you get it right in your inbox. I overview every show. I write up what we're going to be talking about and discussing. Sometimes there's a little bit of an editorial. And then I link you to all of my show notes and all of the stories and articles that I use in the course of the show and that I think are important, my top news headlines of the day. So you'll get that every single day when you sign up for the automated e-blast from me, Shannon Joy. Go to theshannonjoy.com. That is theshannonjoy.com. And by the way, Annie, if you can pop up Colonial Metals Group in the live chat, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy is my URL. It's my page. And you want to make sure you use that so that they know that we sent you, right? Because they're amazing sponsors of the Shannon Joy Show. So we have, yes, Judith Guitar Lily is very excited to have Judith Berry Baker here. And I talked to her this morning. We had a lovely chat this morning. She's absolutely lovely. As you guys know, we did we spent a weekend together in New Orleans to produce The Kill Shot, my documentary. And yes, we're actually talking about potentially doing a follow-up documentary to The Kill Shot featuring myself and Judith Berry Baker. So that's going to be super exciting. And I just adore her. She is such a special woman and has such an unbelievable story. An unbelievable story. Yeah, PG Glenny. Oh, the experts were testifying. Favorite response? I don't recall. Absolutely. Yeah, you guys look great today. Thank you so much, Annie, for popping in, colonialmetalsgroup.com/joy. It is never too late, honestly. It is never too late to start trading some of your dollars for physical gold and silver. And, no. All right, so let's do this. We have gone over our guests for the week. We have thanked our sponsors. We talked about the e-blast. And when we come back, why don't we do this? Let's go to break. When we come back, we're going to get right into the tweet from Bobby Kennedy Jr. that looks as if it is finally breaking through and rousing the anger of the medical freedom community that has been hijacked, unfortunately, for the past 6 months by MAHA, the Make America Healthy Again movement that wants to talk about anything but COVID lockdowns, the kill shots, the democide that happened in the dark days of COVID-19. It is, in my opinion, an op. And so we're going to look at that and all of the response, lots of responses from some of the biggest names in the medical freedom community calling Bobby Kennedy to task. This is not okay. We cannot stand for it. And we're going to talk about that in a moment when we come back right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Keep it tuned. We'll be back in a minute.
Hey, parents, I have an early Christmas and holiday gift for you. We've all been there. 1 minute, your child is bouncing off the walls, perfectly healthy, and an hour later, this child is very sick. You feel helpless, and it can turn your plans upside down. especially on vacation. After thousands of customer requests, the wellness company has just launched the Kids Emergency Medical Kit. You no longer have to deal with emergency illnesses in a panic. Now you can have 6 critical medications at your fingertips to treat 20 plus illnesses for issues children have, such as strep throat, ear infections, lice, and respiratory illnesses. You can avoid urgent care and hospitals. The Kids Emergency Kit has been hand-selected by the wellness company's medical board and includes chewable amoxicillin, dissolvable ivermectin, and an optional EpiPen and more. This also includes a detailed guidebook guiding you step by step in emergencies. Ordering this kit is simple. Only parents can order for their children. Fill out an intake form and you will get a verification call for consent. Then it's delivered to your door. Don't wait till you're in the middle of a crisis and avoid late night urgent care runs. Order your Kids Emergency Kit today and remove panic from your life. And if 1 or 2 of the prescriptions run out, there's a replenishment option to restock only what you need. Go to dailyclouthealth.com and grab your Kids Emergency Kit right now. Use code DailyClout to save up to $40 at checkout. These kits are only available in the USA. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. I totally messed up. I don't know if you guys saw last Friday. I thought that the end of the collagen sale was on Friday. So I did a last minute offer. It's ending Friday night. I did a little video and put it up on all of my socials for Native Path for the collagen. And I got an email from the agency Friday night saying, oh, wait, hold on. We're going to extend the 45% off sale for another week. So there is one more week. I swear it's going to end after this week. And that wasn't just a ploy, I promise. I just want to let you guys know that the 45% off is still good. We're going to move into Native Path Hydrate, which is another product that I absolutely love. I'm going to be telling you guys all about that, not next week, but the week after. So my apologies for totally screwing that up. And yes, if you haven't gotten your collagen, there is one more week for that deal. So that is getnativepathcollagen.com/joy. Okay, let's get back to this tweet from Robert Kennedy Jr. from his official account as HHS director. It's at Sec Kennedy is the name. And this just blew the lid off of the medical freedom community yesterday, going bonkers over this and not in a good way. So as I'm reading this to you, if you guys have seen, I have a couple tweets from some of the bigger thinkers and accounts in the medical freedom movement in response to this, but let me know how some of your favorite medical freedom advocates have reacted to this tweet, because he is getting absolutely hammered by it. And he should be hammered by it. This is outrageous. It's outrageous for a bunch of reasons, which I'll lay out for you. But this is what he tweeted out yesterday. I came to Gaines County, Texas today to comfort the Hildebrand family after the loss of their 8-year-old daughter, Daisy. I got to know the family of 6-year-old Kaylee Fair after she passed away in February, and have developed bonds and deep friendships and affection, blah, blah, blah. So first and foremost, they are continuing to perpetuate the myth that there is a crisis in the state of Texas regarding measles. Okay, that's irritation number one. Are we really going to put up with this BS again? Right? Like all of the fear porn, trying to scare people into accepting medical interventions against their will or certain countermeasures in their communities because of some big scary pandemic or outbreak. This was the agenda of the Biden administration. This was the agenda of Fauci and Birx. This has been the agenda of the vaccine pharma pushers for the past 20 years. They tried this measles fear porn in the state of New York with an Orthodox Jewish community in Rockland County in 2019 before the pandemic. And Bobby Kennedy Jr. had a completely different reaction to it then than he is now. He is literally morphing into exactly what he opposed before our very eyes, and cynically using relationships with grieving families of children who may or may not have perished from measles. It could have been with measles. And as we found in one of the cases of those deaths, it was actually hospital mistreatment and maltreatment. Okay. So for him to double down on this now is outrageous. This tweet was put out yesterday at 3:39, April 6, 2025. And at the time of my screenshot had 3.2 million views. So he's using his official capacity to completely backtrack on anything he has ever said regarding some of these attempts to weaponize a virus and propagandize populations using fear. All right. It's just wrong. Okay. But he goes on, gets worse. But wait, there's more. He says, I'm also here to support Texas health officials and learn how our HHS agencies can better partner with them to control the measles outbreak, which as of today, there are 642 confirmed cases of measles across 22 states, 499 of those in Texas. Well, how are they determining that they have measles? Are they using PCR tests again? Flawed PCR testing, right? Are they counting, once again, the exact same tactics and techniques of the administration in 2020 to ramp up the fear porn in order to deploy their countermeasures, right? So again, adopting the posture and the rhetoric of Anthony Fauci, Deborah Birx, and all of the lockdowners of 2020. It gets worse. In early March, said Bobby Kennedy, I deployed a CDC team to bolster local and state capacity for response across multiple Texas regions, supply pharmacies and Texas-run clinics with needed MMR vaccines and other medicines and medical supplies to work with local schools and healthcare facilities to support contact investigations. Do you remember what contact investigations were? This was when Sally told Joey that so-and-so had COVID, and the county-run health departments would go in and harass families and try to quarantine them, lock them in their homes, and push them into getting vaccines or countermeasures because of their supposed contact with someone who may or may not have been infected or had COVID-19. Do you remember that? Those are contact investigations. So now Bobby Kennedy is adopting again another strategy, another countermeasure of the entire flawed response to pandemics while using once again their fear porn. And also needed MMR vaccines. And to reach out to communities, including faith leaders, to answer any question or respond to locations seeking health care, blah, blah, blah. Since that time, he writes in this tweet, the growth rates for the new cases and hospitalizations have flattened. And he is using that term, do you all recall, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, the curve. This has all been debunked. Countermeasures, MMR vaccines, contact tracing, lockdown, going in and working with the government has never done anything to flatten any curve whatsoever. And the curve itself is false because they're using faulty PCR testing. The whole thing is a lie. The entire thing is a lie. And he is embracing every bit of it. It's offensive. It's offensive. It's embarrassing to people who have done years and years of research and work to debunk everything. We actually won. We won the battle. The medical freedom movement in 2020, 21, 22, and 23 effectively smashed their narrative, defeated their narrative, and won the culture. And now here we are in 2025 with a supposedly friendly administration and one of the medical freedom movement's greatest champions, Bobby Kennedy Jr., absolutely erasing every bit of ground that we have gained. This is a disaster, a disaster. And I have been predicting, you guys know I've been saying this now for 4 to 6 months. We have been waiting for any sign of a pulse from the medical freedom community regarding the rhetoric from Robert Kennedy Jr. I haven't read the Big Tree thing yet, but I will. So he is saying that their countermeasures, right, that distancing and vaccines and contact tracing and all of the things have flattened the curve of the measles outbreak in Texas and across the country. Insane. And then he goes on, and this is the kill shot, okay? This is the statement that just blew everyone up. And he said this: the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. I've spoken to Governor Abbott, and I've offered HHS's continued support. At his request, we have redeployed CDC teams for a non-existent virus outbreak in Texas. We will continue to follow Texas's lead and offer similar resources, blah, blah, blah. This is insane. This is insane. A sane person cannot accept this. I hate the rhetoric. I hate the plan. I hate the countermeasures. I hate the likening or the usage of Fauci era rhetoric and Birx's era rhetoric. It's offensive. I don't know if this is part of the humiliation ritual. I don't even know if he read. This is outrageous. We need to reject this in every way, shape, or form, and we need to reject Bobby Kennedy Jr. completely. It's over. It's over. And I will probably be the strongest with my rhetoric, but we did find a pulse in the medical freedom community and from one of the biggest voices in the medical freedom community who has had virtually nothing to say about Bobby Kennedy and his betrayals over the past 6 months and the distraction away from COVID and the shots to Maha. And that is Del Bigtree. Amazingly, I don't know if the memo went out. I don't know if this was just one step too far. I don't know if some of these medical freedom leaders are getting so much pushback from regular people that they cannot defend this anymore. They look like idiots, morons. I'm not saying that they are, but I'm saying this is humiliating. Bobby Kennedy Jr. is putting everyone that he has ever associated with, that he has ever worked with, that he has ever advocated with in a terrible position. He is asking them to accept lies. He's betraying them and humiliating them. And maybe this is why some people have finally begun to speak up, because there is no way you can defend the statement that he just put out on what is going on in Texas. Del Bigtree responded in this way, right underneath his tweet. Your post, he responded directly to Kennedy. Your post got cut off. The MMR is also one of the most effective ways to cause autism, as witnessed by millions of parents worldwide and covered up by the CDC's fraudulent study at the heart of this documentary. And he linked to the Vaxxed documentary that was produced by Children's Health Defense and Polly Tommy. In addition, MMR is widely known to cause a whole host of debilitating and horrifying adverse events and reactions. And that is detailed very clearly in Bobby Kennedy's own book, Vax Unvax. It is detailed very clearly in the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS. This has been well established. This has been championed by Bobby Kennedy Jr. himself, yet he omitted that. It has been proven by many that indeed the measles vaccine, the MMR vaccine, is too dangerous to justify the risk of even deploying it. And that is something that has been said by Dr. Peter McCullough and other medical doctors in the medical freedom movement, that the risks do not outweigh the benefits of the MMR vaccine. Big Tree went on. He didn't stop. For all who are asking, I have worked with Bobby for many years, and I can confidently say he has a heart that is incapable of compromise. I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I disagree with Del Bigtree there. He went on, though. I also recognize that he is at a poker table with the slyest serpents in the world, and the stakes are nothing less than the lives of our children and the future of our species. We should not ask him to show his cards for our sake, but we can demand that he takes a little more time to write a better effing post than this one. So he is again going with the 12-dimensional chess, that we have to trust the plan, that Bobby's in bed with the bad guys and we have to give him time, right? Del is just mad about this particular post, probably because everyone around Del Bigtree is now hammering him for covering for Bobby Kennedy, right? That's how this works. Bobby is humiliating everyone around him. He is ruining their messaging. He is destroying their work. Every time he puts out a tweet like this, he is destroying the legacy of what they have fought for over the past 20 years. You cannot sugarcoat this. And I have been in the medical freedom movement for well over 10 years. So I'm not a newbie. I'm not a COVID newbie. And I hear this now from people who have been in this battle, and they'll say, oh, well, the people who came in during COVID don't really count. Oh, no. Okay. It's not just Del Bigtree that went after this. Catherine Austin Fitts had a response. Did RFK just say that MMR is the most effective way to stop measles? He knows that that is not accurate. So where is the line now, asks Catherine Austin Fitts, between the BTC bailout, Bitcoin, Gaza genocide, and now MMR? RFK says what he is told. Question is, who is telling him what to say, asks Catherine Austin Fitts. And how do we get the MAHA movement to focus on real solutions instead of waiting for one politician or one man to fix things? We have proven for decades that such an approach always fails. There is no 12-dimensional chess happening here. No, I do not trust the plan. Okay? And no, I don't put my faith and my hope and my trust into man-made institutions, especially in Washington, D.C. And none of you should as well. 5 times August, a very highly platformed Brad Skistimus, if you have ever heard his music, one of the very early advocates opposing COVID lockdowns, forced shots, forced masking, social distancing, and you name it. He wrote this: strike one. Operation Warp Speed was an extraordinary accomplishment and demonstration of leadership by President Trump. That's a quote from January 30th from Bobby Kennedy Jr. Strike two, writes 5 times August. Quote, measles is a highly contagious respiratory illness with certain health risks, especially to unvaccinated individuals. That's a quote from RFK Jr. on March 2nd, 2025. Strike three, writes 5 times August, quote, the most effective way to prevent the spread of measles is the MMR vaccine. That was yesterday, April 6th of 2025, quote from Bobby Kennedy Jr. He goes on, Secretary Kennedy, I don't know what the hell you are thinking or who is actually behind this messaging. But if you don't find your balls quick, you're going to lose the faith of every single person who stood with you the last 20 years and is responsible for putting you where you are right now at HHS. None of this is right. Get it together. And he is supported by voices like Mary Talley Bowden's, Maria Z posted on this, Mike Ranger, or Mike Adams, the health ranger, or no, posted on this, and a lot of massive accounts. So, yeah, this is yet another reason why here on the Shannon Joy Show, we advocate for bottom up localism and activation at the local and state level. Because regardless of how good the intentions are of people who go into Washington, D.C., every time they get there, it seems as if everything falls apart and they lose the messaging. They lose the nature of their position once they embark on a career or some type of solution at the federal level. And so this is why it's so important that people are advocating and are moving at the local level. And again, if they're not going to do it in Washington, D.C., don't cry about it, right? Just rip the Band-Aid off, accept it, and get to work at the local level. If they won't do it, then we must do it ourselves. The next guest that we're going to bring in on the Shannon Joy Show is a woman who embodies that philosophy, and she has for so many years. When we come back, we're going to go to break. We have Leslie Manookian. She's here in the Joy Virtual Studio and ready to take a very well-deserved victory lap in her advocacy and her efforts to pass with a governor's signature now. It is done. It is finished. Landmark medical freedom legislation in the great state of Idaho. It is the Idaho Medical Freedom Act, an amazing bill. And I cannot wait to bring Leslie in to tell us all about how she achieved that, along with the organization Health Freedom Defense Fund. It is linked in the show notes of the Shannon Joy Show. We are going to break. We'll be back in a moment to continue this discussion right here on the Shannon Joy Show. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. And I just love the folks over at All Family Pharmacy. What I love about All Family Pharmacy, it's a family-owned company. They have a real brick and mortar pharmacy right in Boca Raton in the great state of Florida. We've met the owner here on the Shannon Joy Show, and they just make it so easy for people to have peace of mind in any type of situation. This idea that you can purchase and prepare, buy your medications, the necessary medications that you need in bulk so that you're never out of them. You never have a situation where you can't access those medications that you need is such an amazing service. And it's only from All Family Pharmacy. So please consider just checking them out, allfamilypharmacy.com/joy. And remember that Joy10 promo code is always going to get you 10% off. Anything that you're bulking up on, stocking up on, you're going to get that 10% off discount when you use the Joy10 promo code. And they'll also know that we sent you here from the Shannon Joy Show. So thank you to All Family Pharmacy and all of our amazing sponsors here at the Shannon Joy Show. We could not bring the show to you every day without them. Without further ado, I would like to bring an amazing friend of the Shannon Joy Show into the virtual studio, Leslie Manookian. Thank you so much for being with us today on the show. Thank you for your organization, healthfreedomdefense.org. Thank you for your advocacy. And most of all, thank you for your refusal to give up. You kept pushing through. You knew that localism is the way to go. And on the heels of some of these betrayals that we're seeing at the federal level, we needed this win. And you guys had to fight like hell for this in Idaho, but you did it. The landmark medical freedom legislation, the Idaho Medical Freedom Act. Congratulations to you and everyone that you worked with over the past few years to get this done. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Shannon. Yeah, it really, truly is a dream come true. People who followed my work know that it's been my mission to establish the idea of medical autonomy, the most basic and fundamental of human rights, our God-given right to direct our own body, to establish that as a societal norm and to codify that in law. And last Friday at 42 that happened for the very first time ever in this great nation, in the state of Idaho. The governor signed the bill after having vetoed the first bill and then having literally a battle between the House and the Senate in the Idaho legislature over the legislation to make it as good as we possibly could make it. And the best bill actually finally was signed.
What I loved about the bill as I was reading through it is, although it was crafted to respond to COVID era atrocities in relation to the COVID vaccine, you were able to broaden that term to medical interventions, which includes anything, any type of countermeasure or medical intervention that a government would try to force a citizen or a human into has been struck down in this legislation. Let's start first with the legislation, what it does, why it's landmark, and then we'll get into how hard you had to fight for this, because this was not an easy won victory. There was a lot behind the scenes that went down that we're going to hear about. But first and foremost, can you just give us the details and the basics in this bill?
Sure. So let me just say, people may remember that I made a documentary on V's. I don't know if we say the V word on here or not, but I made an award-winning documentary on the whole V debate, which was released in 2011. And I started researching V's back in 2001. So I have been involved in this raising awareness about the truth and the buried science relating to V's for a very long time. And that's why when 2020 unfolded, I knew from the very beginning what they were going to do, which was to try to use a public health scare as a means to force V's on the people. And I started Health Freedom Defense Fund. And Health Freedom Defense Fund is the organization that stopped the federal mask mandate for all travel. You guys may recall that. But
Yeah.
the reason I share this is because I want people to understand this has been a 25-year plan and journey for me to get here. And what we saw, the horrors of the COVID responses were really the impetus behind this legislation, because I knew what was going to happen and nobody believed me. I've been censored for 15 years. No one cared. Like Congressman Adam Schiff wrote a letter to Amazon, to YouTube, to Google, to everybody, all the major platforms, X, and told them to deplatform us.
Wow.
More than a decade ago. He wrote the letter in 2019, but this has been going on for a very long time. And my point is that what happened in 2020 was long in the making. And the silver lining of the whole COVID response is that it woke up millions and millions of people all around the world, if not billions of people, to the tyrannical tendencies of not only the pharmaceutical industry, but their puppets in government. And so what happened was in 2023, legislation was passed in Idaho called the Coronavirus Stop Act. And that legislation was passed and signed by the governor, and it prohibited any school, state entity, business, venue, anything from mandating a COVID shot in order to access normal public life, any kind of normal life, going into a business, working, employment, anything like this, schools. And I thought, you know what? We need to literally take this opportunity and roll it into something much bigger. So last year, this has been a dream. I started just contemplating, well, what if I took this bill and I expanded it to everything? And I started speaking with a senator named Senator Dan Foreman from Idaho. And he loved the idea because he thought that what had happened during COVID was egregious as well. And so he thought it was great. He said, write the bill. I'll review it. If I like it, then I'll sponsor it. And so I did that. I wrote the bill last summer. So in the summer of 2024, near the end of the summer, and then I sent it to him. He said he thought it was great. He took it to the Legislative Services Office and hey, he got it printed in January of this year. And this bill says that no person in Idaho, with a couple of small exemptions I can go into or exceptions, can be forced out of public life. So you can't be forced out of a school, or access to a school, access to services, access to a business, access to any state entity cannot be conditioned on receipt of a medical intervention. So you
Wow.
basically can't be forced to take a mask or a diagnostic. Shove one of those swabs into the middle of your skull, or
Mhm.
any kind of medical intervention in order to earn a living, to go to school, to go to an event. Nothing. It's prohibited in the state of Idaho, except for if it's a traditional occupational hazard sort of standard, like a mask in a dusty place,
Mhm.
work environment. Before 2020, it was considered the norm. That can be still mandated, which makes sense. I don't
Mhm.
want people to be in harm or to be in danger. And the other thing, which is frustrating, but it was the only way to get it passed, it doesn't apply to business entities like hospitals that take Medicare and Medicaid funds
Okay.
yet. But let me make a pledge right now that we will go for that in the coming year. That's our
Mhm.
next goal, is to fix that. We just knew we couldn't get it through at this point because St. Luke's is one of the biggest employers and one of the most influential interests in the state of Idaho, their hospital
Right.
system. So it's huge, Shannon.
Yeah.
No one has to be forced, no one can be forced to take a medical intervention of any kind in order just to live a normal life in Idaho anymore.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and we're gonna get into some of the hurdles. This was originally vetoed by the governor. You guys went back and really fought like hell for this, but we do have some questions. You mentioned, some small exceptions. There was a question on the live chat about, um, an emergency declaration or something that could happen, like a federal. This is the question. Let me ask you this question here. Let me find it. 73503 says a federal law appears to supersede the Idaho one. Can you explain that part of it? And Section 5A, if an emergency is declared, this act shall be full force and effect on and after July 1, 2025. That sounds like it's in effect even if there is an emergency declared. But can you explain those two parts of it?
Yeah. So first of all, Idaho statutes, they take, the legislative session ended. This was the very last bill that Governor Little signed at the legislative session. The last bill,
Wow. Wow.
442, I think, last Friday.
Wow.
I think he held out deliberately. He wanted us to be on tenterhooks. And anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so no, federal law does not supersede this because in health issues, the laws, the states have the power and authority to dictate. So think about what happened during COVID. This is one of the greatest gifts bestowed upon us by our forefathers, that we have 50 states with 50
Mm.
governors and 50 legislatures, and therefore 50 potential paths. This is why Florida was able to do what it did, and South Dakota did what it did, and other states pursued their own path during COVID, because we are not bound by the federal government when it comes to health powers. Health powers are reserved to the states.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons why we were able to sue CDC and strike down the federal travel mask mandate, because they are not authorized by Congress with that power or authority, because it's reserved to the states by the Constitution.
Right.
So they can do whatever they want at the federal government. The only way that there could be some infringement would be if there was some kind of occupational thing or something like that. But aside from that, no.
Okay.
I actually had an attorney reach out to me this morning and say, "Wow, this is amazing because even federal law can't trump it."
Yes.
So no,
Amazing.
yes.
Yes.
And
Well,
then the other thing is that that it just automatically becomes law on July 1st, because that's what all of our bills do.
okay, so it becomes law on July 1st. And I tend to agree with that. I have seen from time to time people will look at, Florida legislation, because there was some really good legislation out of Florida that bolstered medical freedom. And there were certain provisions that people said appeared to have like a backdoor, right? Like that the federal government, but I haven't seen that. And honestly, in the worst of the worst of the worst of the scenarios, which was the lockdowns of 2020, where there was an emergency declaration, there was guidance coming from the federal government. Even then, it really, at the end of the day, was the county and state level. It was whether or not they decided to apply the federal recommendations or countermeasures or not. And that's why we had such a vastly different experience here in New York State as opposed to Florida or some of the other states. So I tend to agree with you. At MAV 2022, glad you're looking out for all of these and reading all of the bills. That's excellent. But this is a bombshell, right? Even the rhetoric in terms of it being a rhetorical win, like this firmly establishes for the first time that the state just does not have the authority to infringe it on our bodies essentially. And it's something that Democrats and Republicans really haven't addressed. We've never really seen this addressed at the federal level. And, you've long been an advocate for localism, for bottom up. And I think it's just so amazing today as we are witnessing so many in our medical freedom community, what looks to be a betrayal from the administration and from some of the people that we put in that administration. This is the backstop. This is the escape hatch. It is local organization. It is, this commitment. And you've proved it, Leslie. That's what I love about this story. Can you tell everyone about the difficulties and the backstabbing and everything that went on behind the scenes to wrestle this thing to the floor, to get a vote, and then to go back to that governor and force him to sign it? Like, what was the backstory? Because it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, well, I want to first of all give a shout out to my sisters in arms, Sarah Clenden and Misty Karlfeld, who are the executive directors of Health Freedom Idaho.
Amazing.
I'm a founding board member of Health Freedom Idaho, and those two live in the Boise area, whereas I live 3 hours away.
Yeah.
They have been tireless in going to the legislature and testifying and pushing and helping put forth bills and advocating for the people of Idaho for years. And that really makes a difference. It makes a huge difference because we have been able to educate legislators about the overreach of government and even businesses, and then hold them accountable. This has been going on for a long time. Then on top of that, we had two unbelievable advocates on our side. The assistant majority leader of the Idaho House, Josh Tanner, came to the rescue, and Rob Beiswanger, a representative from Central Idaho, he was true blue from the very beginning. He was the sponsor in the House, and that man, he is a total hero. So is Josh Tanner, but Rob Beiswanger was there from the very beginning. So Beiswanger was the person that that Senator Foreman asked to sponsor the bill on the House side. And he's now like my brother. I mean, he is total family after what we have been through.
Wow.
Basically, what happened was we introduced the original bill and it flew through the Senate, and then it went to the House and it flew through the House. And then it kind of was slow walked to the governor's office. And I suspect, I can't prove this, but I suspect that happened because the governor was hoping that the legislative session would end the week before last. And if they didn't get this bill to him by Friday, it would not time out until the following Saturday. Okay. So after the legislative session ended, and then it wouldn't have to, nothing would happen. So the law in Idaho says that once a bill gets to the governor, so if it gets to the governor at noon on a Monday, he has until noon on Saturday, 5 24-hour periods, to sign it or veto it or do nothing. And if he does nothing, then it automatically becomes law.
Okay.
So our bill got passed in the House. That was the final hurdle Wednesday, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now. I can't even remember. It's all a blur. And it didn't get to the governor's desk until 11:30 in the morning last Monday, which I thought was kind of weird because they passed it on Wednesday. Why did it take 2.5 days to get there? But it did. So 11:30 Monday meant he had until 11:30 Saturday to sign it. So I'm visiting my son in college on last Saturday morning, and I get a call from Senator Foreman saying that the governor loves the bill, but has vetoed it. And he says he's vetoed it because he's concerned that we don't reference whether or not schools can send sick children home. Well, Shannon, we didn't reference it because, of course, schools can send sick children home, because we didn't touch any of that code. We didn't reference it because it was totally and completely unnecessary, because, of course, sick children can be sent home from school. It would be insane to prohibit them from doing so, wouldn't it?
Right. Yes.
So this was his statement as well. So not only did he say this, but he actually issued a statement accompanying his veto. The first and only veto of the 2025 session was for the first iteration of the Idaho Medical Freedom Act. So he said, listen, we, I'm just concerned about this thing. And so I'm vetoing it because of that. And so over the weekend, I spent time, there were a lot of behind the scenes meetings and talks and machinations, as you can imagine.
Sure.
And then I got confirmation, a promise from Senator Foreman. I texted him, I said, please promise me that you will not move forward with any language without running it by me first. And he said, absolutely, you have my word. He violated that trust. On Monday morning, he went in and he introduced a new bill, having conferred with the governor's office. And this new bill, 1210, which is the one that ultimately passed, but with huge amendments in the end,
Right.
it carved out daycares, meaning that daycares, any child in daycare, private daycares, which is all daycares in Idaho, could ignore the law that says that parents have the right to refuse unwanted medical interventions for their children,
Right.
because they're a private business.
Huh.
He was offering up our children, literally ransoming our children so that we could gain medical freedom for all adults. And I could
Wow.
not be part of it. I was sickened.
Mhm.
And I told him so. I was like, this is awful. And no, I can't be part of it. He promised me he wouldn't move forward.
Mm.
And then he did.
Wow.
He went and introduced this bill with this horrific language in it, literally ransoming our children, auctioning our children in exchange for the rights and freedoms of everyone else. And I was just sickened by it. But Representative Beiswinger said it's not over. And the House introduced a competing bill,
Okay.
introduced House Bill 472. Now, this bill was identical to my original bill, but it inserted a reference to the code that already exists that states that schools can send sick children home. So basically, we called the governor's bluff.
Mm.
Because
Wow.
he said all he was concerned about was the ability to send schools, sick kids home, which we totally agree with. So we inserted that language.
Yeah.
And over the next several days, basically what happened was it went back and forth. There was a battle between the two chambers of the Idaho legislature.
Oh.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah.
So they rushed HB 472, the good bill, through.
Right.
The Senate kept trying to move forward with 1210. The House basically was not going to hear 1210, and the Senate wasn't going to hear 472.
Okay.
I was on the phone with the Speaker of the House and Representative Tanner and Beiswinger and all these people, and they were saying, what do you want us to do? Do you want to kill the bill or do you want to go forward? And it was just this massive battle. And then I thought it was all over and we were going to concede. We forced them to remove the reference to all the daycares. And what's interesting, Shannon, they literally inserted like 6 definitions of daycare. So this was like extreme legalese. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Wow.
Let me tell you something else I found out. This is just shocking, but there's a company called New Horizons Daycare. You ever heard of it?
Yeah, I feel like I have heard of it. Is it? Yeah, go ahead.
It is my understanding it's the largest daycare operator in the nation.
Okay.
It's the largest daycare operator in Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
They have been sued by a family in Meridian, Idaho for unenrolling their 2-year-old child because the mother claimed a religious exemption for their child.
Okay.
And that was dismissed by the district court. It's now in front of the Idaho Supreme Court.
Okay.
I didn't know this until Tuesday morning. And then it all clicked. I'm like, oh, this is why they're doing this. It's a massive bait and switch. They say they're concerned about sending sick children home. And then they insert this language that excludes daycares. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Because the Idaho Supreme Court case will be heard, oral argument will be heard May 5th of this year in Boise.
Wow. Wow. And this would certainly bolster the case of the parents, right?
No, it would ruin the case of the
Oh,
parents
okay.
because if daycares are excluded and can actually, so because they're a private entity, this is what the lower court said. They're a private business. They can do whatever they want. That's what they said.
Okay.
And so the court found against the parents. And so if this was now codified in statute, those parents would be completely helpless.
Okay. All
Because
right.
then the Supreme Court would say, look, this is the most recent intention of the legislature. Daycares are excluded.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, parents can choose to not vaccinate their children, but they can't send them to these daycares that don't want to accept them.
Mm.
And
Wow.
the thing is, because tens of thousands of Idaho children go to daycare, they're basically hostages. Those parents are hostages to them.
Yeah.
So it would have been disastrous. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so now the state of Idaho is the template state for the rest of the country in terms of protecting individuals and children in every entity. So a school cannot exclude you, a daycare cannot exclude you, an employer cannot exclude you. And this is not just on COVID vaccinations or vaccines in general. This is any medical intervention or or iteration of a medical intervention. If you don't want it to happen to your body, it's not going to happen in the state of Idaho with some of the strongest language in this bill that we have seen in the country. And yes, I see MAB 2020. There are some people worried that maybe there are some carve outs. Regardless of that, this is the strongest wording in the strongest legislation that I have seen in decades, especially coming from the state of New York. And this indeed will protect. I mean, this is the essence of bodily autonomy. These are the discussions that we need to have, Leslie. We don't even have to worry about the ingredients in a vaccine or vaccines being advertised on television or pharmaceutical. We should worry about pharmaceutical liability and protection or even pulling the COVID shots from the market. If you have real choice, if you have a real choice where humans are not coerced into undergoing medical interventions or accepting vaccines against their will so that they can send their kid to private school or religious school or daycare, so that they can have a job or travel or engage in society, go to a restaurant, go to a gym, go to the grocery store. If there is actual free choice, then so many of the problems that we faced during COVID just go away, right, Leslie?
All of it.
All of it.
So let me just say that the House forced the Senate to amend its bill on Friday morning, and the amended bill actually says that healthy children cannot be excluded for school even in a disease outbreak.
Yep.
Which is huge because it's another way that the schools hold a gun to parents' head, because if you have to have your kid out for 10 or 12 or 20 days, and some kids have actually taken their own lives because they've been forced out, unvaccinated kids. It's awful.
Horrifying.
And it also says that no one can that no statutes, no code or regulations can contradict this. So it's huge. It is immense. There is no medical freedom bill in the nation. What this does is, irrespective of proven safety or lack of proven safety for a swab or a mask or any medicine, any medical intervention of any kind, it puts the power where it belongs, back in the hands of the individual who has to live with the ramifications of their choices. No one else gets to decide what's best for me, because no one else knows what's best for me or has to live with the choices that I make. And
Right.
that is what this is about. It is about safeguarding the most basic and most fundamental of human rights, the right to direct our own bodies.
Yes. Now, what do you think? And I want to ask, because there are many people who are saying, "Oh, we need a bill like this in Washington D.C. We need a bill like this from the Republicans in at the federal level." What would you say to that? Like, I think that you have kind of nailed this. It is the right bill at the right time in the right place within the construct of our constitutional system of government, and accepting and falling in line with separation of power. What are your thoughts on that when people say, "Oh, we need this in Washington D.C."?
Yeah, I want to just say also, before I answer that there were lots of people in the Idaho Senate who supported us. Kelly Anthon, who was the leader, he supported us and pushed through. He's the Senate pro tem. There were a lot of people who were on our team for sure and who really helped us, and I want to give them credit too. Here's the thing, Shannon, we have the greatest gift. We would have been Canada or Australia or Britain over the last 5 years had we not had 50 states and states' rights.
Mm-hmm.
We would have been no different. The last thing I want is for anybody in Washington, D.C. to tell us that we have medical rights. Because if one of them tells us that, the next one can take that away. They don't have the power or authority. It says in our Declaration of Independence that our rights come from our Creator.
Mm-hmm.
So does the first line of the Idaho Constitution. That's what it says. And that's where we need to focus. We need to focus on where our rights come from, that our governments are formed by, of, and for the people, and that we should be holding those closest to us most accountable. I'm sorry to say this, but I don't want DC to have that power or authority. But aside from that, I think DC is a lost cause.
Right.
Those people are not going to save us. We are going to save us, and we are going to do it in our states off of our own sweat and tears. And that is what this has been. I have been working in the Idaho legislature for, 16, 17 years now to try and protect parental rights and freedoms all around V's and to get us to this place. I've been educating people for that whole time. And so is Health Freedom Idaho. So I'm going to make this into a model bill. clean it up, make it a template, and then I want states across the nation to go with it. And so
Let's
that's what we are
go.
working on. We do not want the feds to usurp this power or control,
That's
because
right.
think about executive orders.
Yeah.
Biden writes all these executive orders, Trump undoes them. Do you
Yep.
really want that power and authority in their hands? No,
Yep.
that's disastrous. So
Absolutely right. Yes, this is federalism at play, and this is a functioning constitutional republic of free states that are bound by the document that is the Constitution. And so it's absolutely brilliant. I see in the live chat KBS Smile saying Catholic schools in Florida do not accept religious exemptions. Now, this is why this bill is so important, because it's not about exemptions. Exemptions assume that a state can mandate a vaccination as a condition, or a medical intervention as a condition of entering a school or a hospital. And so you have to go to the state with your little exemption in hand and hope that they approve it, whether it's a religious exemption, a medical exemption, a philosophical exemption. This takes the whole exemption discussion off the table, because in the state of Idaho, you cannot mandate a medical intervention in any scenario for people to engage in public life. This is why this is such a landmark bill. This is why it is so sweeping, and it's incredible that it got passed. Leslie, I want to ask you, what do you think it was that forced this governor, who did not want to sign this bill, right? And force the legislature, many within the legislature who don't want to address these things. Maybe they're taking donations from pharma companies. Maybe they are influenced by the medical lobby, the medical industrial complex. Who knows? What do you think it was that happened that makes a governor who doesn't want to do this do it anyway? And what kind of activation did you guys deploy in order to force him to do the right thing?
yeah. Well, we called him out and said that if he is a man of his honor, a man of his word, then he will sign it, because we gave him what he wanted. We
Right.
acknowledged that the schools could send sick kids home. And so if he was not, so I mean, essentially, I think it was a God, Shannon. All
Oh,
glory to the highest, really,
there we
truly.
go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all glory to the highest, because basically it was this massive confluence of factors. You had decades of grassroots efforts by myself and by Sarah Clendenin and Misty
Right.
Karlfeld and Health Freedom Idaho, and then all these organizations, Stand for Health Freedom and the Weston Price Foundation and Heritage Action and Green Med Info, and so many groups were out there, working for us. Freedom Now Foundation, they were all trying to get the word out and getting people to call and write their representatives. That's one thing. The other thing is that COVID was the greatest gift, because a lot of those people in the Senate and in the House, they voted, the House voted 47-23. I mean, that's huge.
That is
This
huge.
is overwhelming. That's a super majority.
Yes.
And it's because I think they have seen what has really happened as a result of these ridiculous, absurd, draconian responses. There's a man named Doug Cameron, who is a dear family friend. He is paralyzed from the diaphragm down in a wheelchair for the rest of his life, because his employer, a dairy, coerced him into getting the shot in order to set a good example for the other employees. Doug didn't want it. He will live the rest of his life in a wheelchair, Shannon, because his boss coerced him to getting that. And his employer had cancer. He's dead and gone now. Doug
Wow.
has to live with that. You can't, I think that these people, there are over 12,000 reports to VAERS from Idaho alone. That's a lot of people who've actually reported after the COVID shot. So these people have seen it themselves up close and personal in their families, their friends, and their communities. They know that the government deceived us, the federal government. They know the health department wasn't totally honest, and they've seen the impact of these policies firsthand. And I think that they are ready to stand up for the people and say no more. So I think it was just all these things. And then the last piece is that the governor was pretty much boxed in. It was the last day of the session.
Love it.
Everybody wanted to go home, and we had called his bluff. And the question was, now he's going to claim, that he's a medical freedom advocate, which is obviously preposterous, but I think he was boxed in and he had to do what he did. But I'm glad he did it. He could have vetoed it again, but I think he would have lived in infamy forever in this state,
That's right. We the people forcing our politicians, our governors, our legislators to do the right thing through tireless grassroots organization from the bottom up. Leslie, you embody everything I ever talked to my audience about in terms of fixing these things. We have to go because we have a hard out, but I want to thank you. Come back on. Let us, help you in pushing this out to other states. Healthfreedomdefense.org, healthfreedomdefense.org is the organization. And Leslie, thank you for proving me right for the first time in years. I love it. I'm so happy.
Thank you, Shannon. So great to be with you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for being with us today. And it warms my heart. Annie, thank you for producing the show. We have run out of time. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.